Now for some market data, the NGX All Share Index closed on a high yesterday, up by around 637.30 points, percentage 0.53% to close at 120,977 points. This is almost, the market is tracking back to its all-time high that it hit on June 25, extending its year-to-date gain to 17.54%. Trading volume dipped 11% to 993.4 million shares from the over 1 billion shares traded on July the 2nd rather. This was across 24,000 deals, but turnover is soared to 29.3 billion shares, putting the market cap at 76.583 trillion naira. Amongst our top gainers, we see a lot of full bid on many of our especially small cap stocks: Guinea Insurance, Deep Capital Limited, Deep Capital PLC, Berger Paint, Academy Press, all gaining 10%, and we see Unilever Nigeria also gaining 9.96%. Guinea Insurance hit 99 kobo share price, Deep Capital 1 naira 10 kobo share price, Berger Paint 33 naira share price, Academy Press 5 naira 61 kobo, and Unilever trading at a share price of around 56 naira 85 kobo. On our top losers, we see Nimet Pharmaceuticals. After weeks upon weeks, there's been a form of market correction, as there were a lot of sell-offs on that particular stocks yesterday. It lost 8.49% to be the major loser. Legend Internet, since listing on the equities market this year, has been a significant action stock. There's been a lot of action on Legend Internet. It went down 7.89%. Then we see CWG also in that particular, CWG also making the fold, a 4.5% decline to close at the share price of 13.80 kobo. Sovereign Insurance closed at a share price of 1.32 kobo after losing 4.35%. And we see VFD Group down 3.57% to close at a share price of 13.50 kobo. VFD has been on a steady decline, quite a bit of bearish action since its share price reconstruction that caused it to move from a share price of around 46 naira to 17 naira per share. When you look at the global market, we see that the S&P 500 and Nasdaq Composite recorded new highs. However, before we go into the US stock market, let's look at some of our top traded stocks. We see Universal Insurance 67 million shares, trading value 40.6 million naira. However, Access Holdings 62.6 million shares and a trading value of around 1.458 billion naira. We see Chams also making the list, 59.739 million shares and a trading value of 147 million naira. Japal Gold 49.457 million shares, a trading value 147.876. Then most importantly for yesterday's market, we see GT Coal. After news hit the market of GT Coal's listing on the London Stock Exchange, we saw 40.635 million shares and a trading value of over 3 billion naira. There was a lot of action. Investors took a lot of action. Both foreign and local portfolio holders took a lot of action on GTCO, and the stock went up to hit a share price of 82 naira 75 kobo. In the US market, S&P 500 index as well as the Nasdaq Composite went up to hit new highs. We see the S&P 500 trading at 6,000. We see the S&P 500 index hitting 6,279 points, gaining 0.83%. Dow Jones up 0.7%, 44,000 points. Nasdaq Composite crossed the 20,000 mark, crossed the 20,500 mark, now in the 20,600 mark, gained 1.02% yesterday. New highs off the backs of surge in non-farm payrolls as they recorded around 147,000 jobs in the jobs data that was recorded yesterday. This was well above the expected 110,000 jobs, And unemployment rate in the country also fell to 4.1%, as against beating analyst expectations of 4.3%. We see in Asia, we see quite a bit of bearish and bullish action from Nikkei. There was a bit of, was slow, 0.06, quite flat. Kospi 1.34% up, and Hang Seng down 0.63%, especially as a lot of equities shifted towards the US side of things. And with no hopes in sight of a rate cut from the US Fed, there's been a lot of equities movement towards US stocks in recent days. Then in the currency side, the Naira 1,535 Naira to the dollar yesterday in the official market. Euros 1,803, and the British pounds 2,092 Naira. It's been quite a bit of flat movement in the Naira. We have stabilized. We can boldly say now that the Naira stabilized between the 1,530 Naira to a dollar to the 1,540 Naira to a dollar region. After the break, we return with our economy and market, where we have an exclusive interview with one of the consumer lending platforms we have in the country. Stay tuned. So on our exclusive interview for today, we are going to be talking about some of the happenings in the consumer lending space in Nigeria. In an exclusive interview with Paul Adebayo, we reviewed some of the things that they at Links Microfinance Bank, which is one of the banks in one of the micro lenders in the country, that is now diverted attention to the digital lending space, how they are going about it, and some of the measures they've been taking. Recently, we heard news of the government, which is the NIMC, trying a policy of linking NINs to credit scores, a move that some people have hailed and has also called for concerns, data protection concerns. Many of these and more on this exclusive interview with Paul Adebayo.
I'm the Sofri. And at Sofri, we are a digital microfinance bank, and technology is the underlying thing of what we want to build. And why, in fact, let me even start from the name Sofri, right? It's a pidgin word called Sofri. You know when they say Jeje, Sofri. And that's the idea of what we want to try to build, right? Where we're saying we want things to be easy. We want people to be able to have things done in a simple way. And that's what we want to take into banking. And that's why our mission is very straightforward. We want to make banking simpler. We want to make it innovative. I want to make it inclusive. I want to make it impactful. That's the fundamentals of what we want to do. Why are we different from the typical guy? One thing that is important first is when you are playing with money, you have to make sure that there's speed into what we do. And speed for us is one of the most important value proposition that we have. And I think I mentioned earlier that we wanted or we want to have people to be able to have instant personalized access to credit, right? With your money, you should be able to do more. You should be able to generate more. That's why we also have our best-in-class savings and investment opportunities that we're also offering to our customers. So when you put money in your account, or you have money in your account, sitting in your account, it's already working for you. Today, the banks that you drop money in and don't touch it, come back at the end of the year, that money has reduced because of charges, right? What we are even trying to do then is we can as well make your money sweat for you whilst you sleep, and that's why we try to invest your money with in the market where we're able to generate interest for you, and that's why we think we are quite unique. And what we're also trying to do is to also make sure that we touch the lives of people that are undeserved or underbanked, and we are able to bring them into the financial ecosystem of what we're trying to do. So in a nutshell, that's why we're here.
Okay, so This is not the first time that Sofri will be hitting the market, and I think what we're doing today is more or less like we're revamping what we already have. So it's more or less like a key that crowd is now working. So what is different from today's Sofri and when you started in 2021?
I mean, like the analogy you use, right? A kid that is walking or crawling, when you give birth to a child, it's going to crawl. Then it will learn to walk. Before it learns to walk, it will learn to stand and then start to move. When we started, we were crawling, understanding our environment, understanding where we are, and then taking a position and say, this is the niche we want to follow, and this is where we want to drive at. And I think we have gotten to that point where we're at that point where we're saying, this is the niche we're following, and this is the niche we want to go into. So, yeah, on our revamp, we got into the point where the foundation is set. We can now run rather than walk.
Oh, okay. The question I want to ask is now relating to repayment. How do you plan on enforcing repayment, basically? We're talking about nano loans, at least now the app is launching on the context of nano loans and micro loans. So what's the plan to enforce repayment? Is collection automated within the app? And you mentioned that you're an ethical lender. What are the measures that you are putting in place to prevent it from looking like a predatory lending situation?
Okay, so we are adopting a multi-layered risk approach where we understand the type of risk for customers, and then with that we put in specific control measures. I'll run you through some of the risks that we have and how we mitigate those risks. I think the biggest risk in credit first is identity risk. Who are you? Why are you collecting this money? And how do we do that? We're doing that through our KYC system with NIN, BVN verification, liveness check. I'm sure if you have downloaded the app, you'll see that you have all those requirements here. That's the first elementary level of even coming into the ecosystem, right? And you already have that data comprising from NIMC, where we're able to bounce off your data, then in a nutshell run out a report and then identify who you are. After that, we then move into the credit risk itself, where we're then analyzing the credits, right? Where we then provide alternate credit scoring system. Today in Nigeria, if I ask you if you know your credit score, I'm sure you don't know your credit score. So what we're doing now is we are redefining our own internal metrics, what we think a credit score should look like, and then how we use that to appraise you. When we use that to appraise you, it then gives us what we think you're eligible to get. So that reduces the risk of me just looking at you and say, I like what you wear and what you're looking like, and just give you a loan without understanding how you want to repay. So by the time you look factor in all those things together, you already understand that this person's capability or capacity is X amount, right? Based on that, I'm sure that you'll be able to pay back based on your income. There will be challenges down the way, right? And that's why we're flexible enough to understand those challenges that we're able to restructure transactional loans into that. Another thing that is also important, another risk is fraud and AML. So if you understand, we also do AML checks, where we have a transaction monitoring system that we built, and the idea basically is you are able to use that to understand payment patterns, payment behaviors, and to reduce fraud. And then repayment risk. We have auto debits that we put on your account, right? If you're collecting a loan on the app, we'll pre-authenticate your card, right? Where we'll be able to then debit you monthly. And with that, before you get the loan, you are sure that card works. You've already done our checks, you've already done the and the system is able to take those repayments.
Okay, so these cards are not necessarily Sofri cards, just your regular bank cards.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with that, you're able to then trigger debit on your account. And like I mentioned, with the introduction of GSI, it's going to make life much easier in the industry. AML is anti-money laundering checks, and AML CCF is the full word, counter-terrorism financing. AML checks basically we're able to understand the customer, understand the use of those funds, where the funds is coming from, the payment pattern. Say for example, somebody wakes up in the morning, you open a bank account. In this open account, you'll arrange a transaction, instead of already moving money out, the system are able to recognize triggers that will be able to say, hold on this transaction, watch how this transaction is going, follow this transaction from cradle to grave, and then from there you're able to exercise.
So the GSI part,
so GSI is a global standing instruction that's introduced by the CBN. And the idea basically is if you have a card or you have a bank account in Nigeria, if you collect a loan and you agree with GSI, it means that I'm able to recover money from all your accounts linked to your BVN.
So it's not like open banking, some sort of open banking.
So technically, yeah, you can play, but it's quite different. Open banking is quite different. I think open banking is just going to be in market in August. So I think that's pretty much.
So with the GSI, I think I'll just take you a little bit out of what we're talking about now. Don't you think that an average Nigerian will have issue with that if I took a loan from, say, Sofri, and somehow I put down my
consent?
Consent, yeah. We hardly read terms and conditions in this part of the world. Mm-hmm. Even the structure we hardly do. So if I give consent and I don't know, I'm like, what is going on here? Mm-hmm. What are the metrics put in place to make sure that the public are educated enough to know that if you're taking a loan, we can take money from your first, your second, your third, your fourth bank accounts?
So if you apply for a loan, right, and you put in your BVN, by the time I'm running your BVN, I'm able to know you have this following account, right? Please confirm that this is accurate. You have ticked that you have confirmed that you have this bank account. You also accepted that you have a GSI mandate for us to debit your account, other account, in the event that your main account that you're giving us to pre-authenticate or tokenize does not work, right? Without consent, we'll be able to do that trigger, right? But I think this initiative is going to really help the ecosystem, especially as to building or improving access to credit, because with that, people that tend to naturally want to default, because you have people that want to default, they just collect the money and like nothing. So that is just an extra incentive to encourage the financial institutions to be able to give out money and to be able to do that.
Okay, one question I have is on the nano loans. What kind of interest rates are we expecting? So let's say 5,000 naira.
I mean, interest rate differs. Interest rate of you is quite different from interest rate I'll give you if you have the same characteristics, right? Like I mentioned to you that because of the because of the AI and machine learning that we use for our decision engine, it gives us that opportunity to be able to appraise it based on the loan. Typical competitors will give you an average of almost 35% monthly interest. And that's loan shark. That's killing. Imagine you take that for 3 months, that's almost 100% for 5,000 naira, which is ridiculous. Well, based on the risk capital, we are able to give you between 8 to maybe 15, depending on your own risk profile, basically. So our rates are
the interest rates are going to be personalized, like you said.
I'm just giving you depends on your own risk capital and risk profile.
So we're talking of interest rates. The personalization goes down even to the rates.
Yeah, because why am I even getting you a personalized credit? I'm getting you a personalized credit because your own profile, your credit score is quite different from your own credit score, right? Your capacity to pay is different from your capacity to pay. You can work in the same industry, you can work in the same organization, you can earn the same salary, but your expenses is different from his expenses. Your rent is different from his rent, right? Based on that, I'm able to understand your own personal financial circumstance and I'm able to trigger a rate based on that.
So one question I'll ask is around it seems like there's a lot of now AI comes into the equation. You're developing your own credit scoring system. So the question I would ask is around you definitely have a lot of engineers that work in this business, a lot of software engineers. Mm-hmm. So how are the machines being trained? Like what data points are you using to evaluate? What data points are you using to train this what's the word now? this AI, basically what data points are being used to train the machine learning language that powers the entire how to know what to give one person from another person, what interest rate.
So we have
Data.
we have five major elements of third phase of data, right? The first one is your identity verification, the data first from BVN and IN, where the other. The next one is the device and behavioral data. On your device, if you have a lot of betting or gambling apps on your device, and you don't have, the chances that you would pay me is higher than these chances, because the probability is you most likely take that to gamble and things like that. So it goes down that deep to understand the triggers that is coming there. And then basically your banking and financial history. If you give me a BVN, I'm able to run your bank statement to understand transactions that flow through your account, right? And then credit bureau records. And then the last one is our own algorithm.
The credit bureau is not. Every Nigerian has a credit bureau. Every Nigerian has a record. Like everybody in the financial space has a record on the credit bureau.
I'm going to have a bank account. If you give me your phone number, I'll get your credit score.
Now the question is around data privacy concerns, especially with the fact that we're now having an NDPC, and you mentioned a lot of data. How well have you ensured that you are very compliant with data protection mechanisms?
No, you would agree with me that the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation (NDPR) is doing a lot as to educating us, and we follow best practices. We follow NDPR. We adopt a portion of the GDPR, and then we also abide with the FCCPC rules on data privacy protection laws. And basically, the idea basically with that is to ensure that we are able to safeguard the data of people, because without having access to this data, we are not going to be able to give out this personalized financing that we pride ourselves in. And I can assure you that we have a recent NDPR rating report already, and we've had no issues of violating that policy.
So I guess that you have a data protection officer.
Yeah, we do. We have an ICT team. We have a full-blown group credit risk team, where they have saddled with the responsibility of ensuring that we are compliant with all regulations. We have also a full-blown compliance manager at the bank as well. And I think the team is about a team of 7 that's currently doing that. And we would agree with me that as we continue to scale, that team has to scale as well. So it's a compensating department based on your user base that has to increase to ensure that things are done. Even down to access to staff, the access that staff has. Not everybody can open an account or look at an account, right? The system or Bank won't allow you to do that. So we have that particular meticulous to the point where we ensure that the data of individuals are actually safeguarded properly.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so before
Thank you for sticking with us on Economy and Market today, and we'll be back on Monday. Have a nice weekend. I'm your host, David Urujimi.